JS, can you help him to share screen and so on? JS.
Okay, thank you, Kwan Sing. Can you hear? Can you guys hear me? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
As usual, Kwan Sing exaggerate my accomplishment. I'm just a facade. Okay, so trying to do my part for cancer patient and for a lot and doing a lot now for COVID. So I'd like to share with you my experience, and of course we have a lot of data now on what's going on out there. Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. So I can put on the slideshow now. Okay, so that's the screen, and I'm just going to tell you the science behind the second booster shot, and there'll be a lot of data. Some of them from our own research, from our own group. It's a bit of a technical talk, but then by all means take the slides and look at it in greater details another time. We always here to share information, share data, share experience.
Don't interrupt. Yeah. For those guys who maybe it's not in our feel free to take photographs of the slides. Then you can go back and have examine and look at it. That's how I always do. All right, go ahead.
Please, there's no patent on this. Everyone is free to take Okay, so this a year ago we were looking at this and we were saying how is the COVID-19 going to evolve in Malaysia? And of course we know now if you're in an endemic phase, we were hoping that vaccine perhaps would help us eliminate COVID-19. It's not going to happen now, so I won't bother to explain this. That's it. We have an endemic in our hands. A quick summary of what happened to Malaysia in the past 2 years during the COVID pandemic. You remember way back almost 2 years ago now with our first lockdown, and at the time we only had a couple of cases, and then bang, we got a big hit by Delta virus, by the Delta variant. From June to November, the whole country was in lockdown. We were all in lockdown. In fact, that's exactly a year ago now. And that was really bad for us. And we were all glad when lockdown was lifted in November. And then, well, we go through Christmas, we go through New Year, and everyone's happy. And we had Chinese New Year. And immediately after Chinese New Year, boom, we all got hit again by Omicron virus. And so you see the third spike there. You can see that spike there.
Your slide's not moving. Your slide's not moving.
I'm still on the first slide.
Yeah.
Okay.
On your introduction slide now.
Let me see. Initial. Let me see how do I remedy that.
Yeah, that is the first slide. Yeah. You're on the first slide. Yeah.
Dr. Lim.
Yes.
From your screen at the bottom right, you use your PowerPoint presentation. You click
full screen.
Presentation, the full screen.
Full screen.
The PowerPoint presentation, the one on the 500.
Okay, full screen.
Yeah, go ahead. That's it. Click it.
So is that full screen now? Can you guys see it? Yeah.
No, it's not. It's not. Yes, it's coming. It's coming.
And is it moving?
Yep. Not yet.
That's too hard.
Is it moving?
Now it's moving. Now it's third slice.
All right, good. It's moving, right? Finally.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
But
so
this is not on slide. It's not on.
Not on full screen.
Can you see? Is it?
They want the full screen.
I think it's okay. You still can see. It's not full screen.
On my screen is full screen now. Yeah.
Maybe use presentation view, Dr. Lim. The presentation view.
Not presentation view.
Yeah.
It's full screen, but not presented. That means that you have to click to the one with the screen.
I have to click to the one on the screen, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Right.
Is it better? Is it better? Is it moving?
It's moving. Yeah, this is better. Can.
You guys can see it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And you can see the cursor, right?
Yes.
Okay. To continue the story. So that's where we were. That's where we were a couple of months ago when the Omicron first hit us in Malaysia, and then we went over that. And then now here we are, August 2022, and we are hopefully not, but I think we are beginning to see the surge of Omicron BA.5. So the objective of this presentation today really is to ask you this question: have you had the second booster yet? And if not, what are the things you need to think about? Okay, to help you make that decision whether to go ahead or not to have your second booster. And I've made a decision. I have had my second booster. I'm not waiting. But of course, I can understand everyone has different circumstances. If you want to make your own decision. And there are 5 questions there, basically. Number 1, how serious is the current surge in Omicron BA.5? How dangerous is that? Second question is, what is your risk of being infected and being reinfected? All right. Thirdly, what is your risk of hospitalization and death? That's probably a very important question you ask yourself, especially if you're elderly and if you are immunocompromised. Then the 4th question is, how can I protect myself with a booster vaccine? For those of you who are quite adamant about not receiving another dose of vaccine. And finally, for those of you who want to consider taking a second booster boat, then the second booster works. And is it safe? All right. So if you can address these 5 questions, I think you have enough information to make a good decision and to protect yourself. Okay, this is a purely science-based thing. I'm not in the middle. I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I don't get associated with any group to go around spreading all kind of misinformation. So we start with BA.5. So that's where we are. Worldwide now, BA.5 is dominant, and in Malaysia now, the latest data we have up to, I think, July. So that's, you're looking at almost 80% of the COVID-19 virus strains now being BA.5 in Malaysia. That's it. If you catch COVID tomorrow, it's 8 out of 10 likely that you have BA.5. And I'm sure in a couple of months time, you'll all be 100% BA.5. That's how it works, right? The virus evolves, and then it transmits. And then, supersede all the other previous variants. So what do you know about? What do we know about BA.5? Number 1, the virology, we know it has mutated, extensive mutation, the S, the spike protein. That's what the vaccine is designed to attack. And that has markedly increased its binding capacity, but reduces fusogen or reduces cell membrane fusion. So these are just technical way. It doesn't matter. What it simply means is that there's a scientific basis to explain why it's so highly infectious, but nevertheless, less pathogenic, less likely to cause serious disease. And so that's good. That's interesting. Highly infectious, but less likely to cause serious disease. We like that. Well, we don't like the highly infectious part, nevertheless. But we move on. The immunology is interesting. All vaccines now that are currently in use, we have evidence now of reduced plasma neutralizations. So the vaccine doesn't work that well. It still works, but not that well, at least in terms of neutralizing the virus. Neutralization is the first line of defense. Well, okay, second line of defense. So that when the virus enters you, your antibody goes out there and try to neutralize the virus. So neutralization is important in terms of upfront defense against infections. The third thing is booster restore neutralization. So that's nice. All right, we're going to show you some good data that booster will restore your neutralization potency, your neutralization capacity. Remember, getting a vaccine is all about giving you neutralization capacity, as well as the next thing, which is, of course, we do observe robust cross-reactive cellular immunity retained. So that is just simple technical jargon, meaning that we do retain protection against severe disease. And that's the biological basis for that, right? So that's nice. Okay, we know now that, okay, you have less neutralization, you're more likely to be infected, but you still do retain some degree of protection against severe disease. That is the science, okay? Here is the data on equivalent dissociation constant. So that's a measure of how well the virus binds to a receptor on our cells, right? It binds very well, gets into our cells. And the next 2 graphs there shows the virus or the cell-cell fusion, and a measure of how pathogenic, how likely is it to invade the cells and cause disease in you. And then here is the data on neutralization potency for all vaccines. All the vaccines are tested, all the commonly used vaccines are tested, from mRNA to vector to even inactivated virus. And in all cases, this is BA.4 and 5. The last column is always BA.4 and 5. And you can see in all vaccine platforms, the neutralization capacity has dropped. So that's the science behind why the vaccine doesn't work that well anymore against BA.5. So the answer to the first question, yes, BA.5 is dominating and will soon dominate 100% in Malaysia. It will likely, in my opinion, cause another surge. Right? We're seeing the beginning of a surge, but we don't know whether that will just go up like, the first Omicron surge. But hopefully with less health impact. We don't know that. We are basically predicting here. So that's the BA.5 background, right? You're going to catch an infection, you'll be BA.5. So the next 2 questions are, number 1, what is your risk of getting infected? And of course, will be likely BA5 and being reinfected. So if you had previously had Alpha or original Wuhan virus infection, or you have Delta infection last year, will you now become reinfected? In fact, if you had BA1 infection a couple of months ago, 1 or 2 months ago, will you now get BA5? We call that reinfection, right? So that's the first question. And second question there, having been infected, and I think many of the people listening here and many of our audience today, I'm sure many of you probably have been infected. I will not be surprised. I have not yet been infected, but many of my kids, my children have been infected. Many of my brothers and sisters have been infected. So then when you are infected, then you want to ask, what is your risk of hospitalization and death, right? That's important, especially for elderly people like me, like Wong Pan Sing. We are not young anymore. We are all Pasara here. So we want to know, hey, how will it impact on me, right? So I'll try to answer this two questions. The first question is, of course, that you heard the word endemic, and it's endemic. But what does it mean, endemic? No. COVID-19 is not the only endemic infection in Malaysia. This is a very well-known one. Dengue. Dengue has been around in Malaysia for what? 30, 40, 50 years. It is endemic. And what does it mean? This is what it means. If you live long enough in Malaysia, you get dengue. This is our data. We published the data many years ago now. Everybody in Malaysia get dengue, okay? If they live long enough. So there you are. That's what endemic means. It means you get the infection. You become infected. And so now COVID-19 is endemic. And COVID-19 transmits a lot faster than dengue. Dengue is a mosquito-borne disease. This is an airborne disease. Okay, airborne disease transmit a lot faster. And what do you expect to see? Well, this is official published data, and you can see that by October last year, at the height of the Delta, all right, at the height of the Delta surge, 30% of people in Klang Valley were already infected. So this is official data, PCR confirmed COVID. Remember, a lot of people get COVID and don't have symptoms. We did the seroprevalence study. So much of last year, we're spending a lot of time going around the country, jabbing basically workers in factories, workers in farms. A lot of these workers are out there, and we actually have a mobile PPV team going out there. And we took the opportunity to collect a blood sample from them. Before we jab you with vaccine, we take a blood sample to find out whether you have antibodies. And if you have antibodies, you have previously been infected. Okay, we call that seroprevalence study, right? And we did that. In fact, this is the largest seroprevalence study ever done in Malaysia before vaccination, okay, before widespread vaccination occurred. And we observed 99.9% positive seroprevalence among all migrant workers. This is a very large study over 2 states, in Perak as well as in Selangor. We have thousands of workers participating in these studies, and we published that again recently. And so there you are, among migrant workers. And so I think if you ask me, that's October 2021 by now. I'm very certain all of you here today listening into this talk, you have been infected in the past. I have no doubt about that. So that's infection. What about death? How likely are you to die after you have become infected by COVID-19? This takes a bit of explanation, because we don't rely on the data published by the government. The government tells us so many people die of COVID-19, by and large, we don't think that's very accurate, because people die of COVID-19 for a variety of reasons. They get mental health problems, they have cancer, but they don't go and see the doctors for the cancer, and therefore they didn't get diagnosed, they didn't get treated, and therefore they die. So there are many ways for COVID-19 to kill you beside the actual infections. Similarly, there are less cars on the road. We were on lockdown, so there are less accidents. There will actually be less people dying as a result of road accidents. So epidemiologists has a way of calculating this, and they call it excess mortality. At the bottom there's a net difference between the number of deaths due to pandemic and number of deaths that would be expected on the basis of past trends in all-cause mortality. So the idea basically is that the number of people who die in the country doesn't vary that much from year to year, right? From year to year. Okay, over a longer period of 10, 20 years, of course, there can be a lot of difference, but from 1 year to another year, it's more or less the same. However, you see a bump in number of deaths, then you can then attribute it to something that happened in the past year. Of course, for us in Malaysia, the past 2 years, the thing that happened was COVID-19 pandemic. And we see an excess death, we see a lot more people died. We can be reasonable to attribute that excess death to COVID-19. Okay, so we call it excess mortality. So here is the data. Up until September, October last year, we were very good. We were doing very well. We have negative excess death. We have less people dying in Malaysia than expected. in spite of COVID-19. And then boom, what happened? In October, we crossed a 0. And from then on, it's been going up all the way. So we had a Delta surge that caused a lot of people to become infected. A lot of people died. And then we had the Omicron surge. More people died. And that causes the excess mortality trend that we are now observing. What's happening now? We think it's heading now toward 100 to 100,000. So roughly 0.1%. Roughly 1 in 1,000 Malaysians died, okay, as a result of COVID-19. 1 in 1,000. Is that a lot? Okay, one way to put that in context, of course, is that it's the same as the risk of a man, 45 years old, without COVID, and die in the next 1 year. Okay, that's 1 in 1,000. 1 in 1,000 man, Malaysian man, aged 45 years old, so not young, but not too old either, and he will likely die in the next 1 year. The probability of that happening is 1 in 1,000. Okay, not too high, not too low. Another way of looking at it is the chances of winning a consolation prize of 4D draw. I'm sure many of you buy 4D now and then you win the consolation prize. That's about 1 in 1,000, okay, each draw. So that is roughly the current risk. So that's the baseline risk. Now, that's the baseline risk, okay? But over 35 million people in Malaysia, it amounts to a lot of people. In fact, now it's running around about 50,000 and counting. And one way then of looking at this in context, and in our historical context, is compared it to past catastrophes. So some of you may have heard about Spanish flu in 1918. That killed 1% of our population, right? Of course, Second World War was nasty. 6,000 civilians died out of population 4 million then in British Malaya. And now we have 50,000 people dying in the past 2 years due to COVID-19. So it looks pretty much like a very major catastrophe in the making now in our history as a country, okay? So it's not something to laugh at. Now, and I say there's a correlation between this. We were negative, we were doing very well, people on lockdown, they don't die. And then boom, we had the Delta surge, remember? June to October last year, boom, we get a spike now in number of deaths, and now we start beginning to see excess, okay? Over and above what is normal. And then that kept going up. Eventually, beginning of this year, we had the Omicron surge, and then we see another spike. And then now, are we beginning to see another surge due to BA5? And therefore, another corresponding spike in excess deaths. That, I think, is where we are now. Okay, we are at that threshold. You hope BA5 will not turn out to be another major surge like Omicron was at the beginning of this year. And if it does surge, do expect more people to drop there, okay? So, coming back to this then. This is the general population. That's the baseline. 1 in 1,000 people will die from COVID. But you and I are not the general population. We are elderly people. Many of you here are elderly people. What is your risk then? So there you are. Infection fatality ratio for people aged 60 to 69, aged 65 to 69 is 1%. And once you hit 80 years old, it becomes 10%. And if you're nursing home residents, your family put you in nursing home, perhaps you're a bit frail, it's anything from 10 to 35%. So the risk gets escalated pretty quickly, okay, as you age. So that's something to consider for the elderly out there. For those of you who are more than 60 years old like me out there, you are not part of the general population. You are the minority of the population at excess risk of death now from COVID-19. And then now we throw in immunocompromised. So you're elderly and then you're immunocompromised. You have cancer, you're currently actively on treatment, so that the treatment are likely to compromise the immune system. Well, 12.5% of hospitalization now in the US is due to because of immunocompromised people. It basically double your death, okay? Compared to non-immunocompromised, you just double your risk of death, whatever your baseline risk. If your baseline risk for someone who's 60 years old is something like 1%, you become 2% now, okay? And more interestingly, I think, during the Omicron period, vaccine effects attenuated. So we do observe an attenuated protective effect from vaccine as a result of Omicron, for a variety of reasons given there. So, what about cancer? Many of you are cancer survivors today. This is a very huge data set from US, from a cohort 3 in the US. So this is almost like more than half a million people. So you look at people with cancer, all right, in US, 45,000 of them, the risk of getting infection was 13.6% over a period of about a year, and then a breakthrough infection. So we call it breakthrough, meaning that they get infected after vaccination, right? Then for those without cancer, 4.9%. So basically more than double your risk, almost tripling your risk of getting infected. And then more importantly, death, right? So if you get infected, no big deal, because all of us are probably going to be infected eventually. How likely are you to die? Without cancer, 1.3%, that's in the US. And then with cancer, 6.7%. So now it bumps up your risk of death now by 4 or 5%, okay? Oh, sorry, 4 or 5 times. So there you are. Now, if you have cancer, and especially if you're actively on treatment that's suppressing your immune system, if the baseline population risk is 1%, and for elderly people, maybe it's, so for elderly people, it's 1%. So your risk of death is probably about 5%. You have 1 in 20 chance of dying from COVID, okay? That's not small anymore. I mean, even 1 in 100 is not something I'm very comfortable with. 1 in 1,000, okay, I can probably accept it. But I don't want to die with the risk of 1 in 1,000, 1 in 100. 1% chance is pretty high by my standard. So the answer to those 2 questions, what is your risk of being infected? 100%. It's no longer avoidable. You are going to be infected sooner or later. And secondly, for elderly immunocompromised people, you have a minimal risk of 1% of hospitalizing and dying of COVID-19. And the higher your age, the more immunocompromised you are, the more likely, and you could quickly bump it up to 35%. 1 in 3 people died in nursing home, or very frail elderly people. So, and these, of course, are the people who are accounting for the excess deaths we are observing in Malaysia. 50,000 of our fellow Malaysians have died, and many of them are elderly people. Okay, so we come back to the last 2 questions. How can I protect myself besides booster? So if you insist that no more booster for me, thank you very much for whatever reason. How can I protect myself? Number 2, for those of you who will seriously consider booster, like I did, like I had, then what does the data show? How well does it work? How safe it is? So here you are. Non-pharmacologic intervention, NPI. 3W and 3Cs, wear your mask, social distancing, blah, 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 all those things we've been doing the past 2 years, they are still relevant, except that they are hard to practice if you want to go out and socialize like me. Okay, I mean, I've been traveling, I've been to all countries in Southeast Asia, I go around playing golf, I regularly go out for dinner in restaurants. I make a personal decision to live my life, okay, then to stay at home. I'm sure everyone, given your own particular circumstances, you will make your own decision how you want to live your life. But for someone like me who wants to be active, who wants to really go out there and live my life without being bothered by COVID-19, then it becomes important that I should be more disciplined in wearing masks. But closed door and close contact, I think that's out. I mean, you go everywhere now. I just came back from a conference, Asia Pacific conference on public health. I was invited there to speak on something on vaccine, and it's amazing. It's just everybody, they're all doctors, they're all public health doctors at that. It's just sitting around, and so it's normal. Okay, I mean, you've seen it yourself. It's very normal out there now. Everyone's going to be mixing and seeing each other face to face in close contact and closed door. If you want to live your life, I mean, you want to go out there and live like we did normally, like we did in the past, then you have to accept the fact that you will be infected. And then perhaps you need some additional protective measure besides the usual 3W, 3Cs. Well, sanitizer is something to consider. Antibody measurement is another thing to consider. So let me take you through that. So that's nasal sanitizer. This just published a couple of weeks ago. So we're all quite glad to see a full randomized trial demonstrating that just taking a spray, spraying something into your nose, spraying a disinfectant into your nose, prevent you from getting COVID-19. I think that's quite neat. I mean, I know many of you don't do that. Many of you will spray your hand and wash your hand. But you think about it, you're not going to you're not quite likely to get COVID from your hand. You're very likely to get COVID from the air, and you breathe the air through your nose. And therefore, you should protect your nose. You should sanitize your nose and not sanitize your hand. Right? You understand the logic? And we have the data now to show. And so this is the one I use. Really. This is something called a nasal sanitizer. You just spray into your nose like that and spray into your nose like that. Before I go out, I go to a crowd, I just spray that. This is povidone iodine, dirt cheap. Povidone iodine is a disinfectant that surgeons use to clean the skin. You know, before they cut you, before they cut your skin, operate, you know, when they're doing operations, they have to clean and sanitize the skin. They use this thing. Right? In low concentration, only 1% povidone iodine, it kills all the viruses. We have data to show that. Of course, there's no data. There's no food randomized control trial data on that. I talked to the manufacturer, and he said, "Oh, they all." Wong Guan Sing, everybody loves you. Everybody knows you. I don't know why, but anyway, I love you too. And so he said, "Hey, Wong Guan Sing, no problem. He donate." Immediately he said he donates. So your members, all of you, get one bottle of this free if they want it. Okay? Yeah.
Oh, very good. And please join TAC. You'll get one.
Yeah. Wow.
TCSM. Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. So the other thing you can do, of course, is check antibodies. This gets very technical, but if you have been vaccinated or you have not been recently infected, you probably want to go and check antibody level. And if it's very low or it's zero, then you should be really worried, especially if you're elderly and immunocompromised. You want to go out there and get a booster quickly. Okay? So I don't want to talk too much about that, but I think many of you know about that now. The next thing you can do, of course, is what doctors do. They prescribe a treatment for you. And we have made a lot of progress in the past 2 years. I think many of you need to be better informed about this. Of course, number one is a vaccine. Okay. I mean, this is just amazing. The science is just amazing that within 11 months, we roll out the first vaccine. That has never heard of in medical history. Okay? So the first mRNA vaccine by Pfizer was rolled out after about 11 months into the COVID-19 pandemic in the US. That's just amazing to me. So there, you have your vaccine. The good old vaccines now been around now for more than a year. And the new generation one are coming, the nasal vaccine, the so-called inhaled vaccine, something like that again. You inhale the vaccine instead of jabbing you intramuscularly. I think that's exciting, right? Because we know the virus get into you through your nose. We want the immunity to be built up in your nose, not just in your body, the rest of the body. And inhaled vaccine claim to be able to do that. Okay, of course, we need more data. I'll tell you more about that. Some of you may have heard of the polyvalent vaccine coming out now, I think in the US. Next month or month after, they're going to roll out a new vaccine. The vaccine is tweaked. It's designed specifically to target Omicron variant. I don't know how much work that is. Anyway, there's not enough stock. It's only going to be used in the US. And the one in progress, of course, is pan-coronavirus vaccine. So one single jab that covers all coronaviruses. That's fantastic. I mean, that would be fantastic if we can have such a product, such a vaccine. But of course, very much a work in progress. So that's vaccine for you. And I'll tell you a lot more about vaccine later on, more details about booster vaccine later on. The other thing, many of you, especially if you're elderly, immunocompromised, you are heavily on chemotherapy or on some other nasty immune suppressive drugs. And if you're exposed, we know how likely it is that you're going to die. I mean, if you're infected, then there is now a treatment actually for it. It's called Evusheld. It is a combination of monoclonal antibodies. Unfortunately, it's not available in Malaysia. I'm trying to get some into Malaysia, but it's too costly. It's very costly. So something for, I think, perhaps TAC to consider that if there is, perhaps you stockpile some, meaning each of us don't want to buy it because they're very costly, but you can buy some, stockpile it, in case anyone needs it, then they get it, okay? You cannot arrange for this thing to be imported into Malaysia in the last minute, all right? So it has to be stockpiled. Then comes the magic. All the new drugs we have been seeing in the last 1 year, we have now something called Paxlovid, right? So first you prevent. We don't want you to get infection. Vaccine, monoclonal antibodies. But if you are infected, we don't want you to progress into ICU and dying, right? To prevent the progression, we have a new drug called Paxlovid, okay? And then, but unfortunately, your infection progresses, you become sick, become ill, you go admitted to the hospital. Now they put you on oxygen and and you may even put you on a ventilator. There are now a lot of very good new treatment to prevent you from dying in hospital. 3 of them in particular are well known: remdesivir, baricitinib. Steroid has been there for a long time, okay? And then there's an antibodies called Paxlovid. I'll tell you more about this in a moment. So that's Paxlovid. Paxlovid is good for elderlies. Get yourself on this treatment if you're infected. I put so many of my friends and relatives on this treatment. Okay, I mean, I've lost count now. I personally stockpile some in my own house. Okay, so my elder brothers or somebody has, I'll just quickly send it over to them and start treatment, because you need to start treatment the moment you're infected. Okay, the moment your test result come back positive, start treatment straight away. Just 5 days treatment, you're done. Biden got treated on Paxlovid, but of course his symptoms, he rebound. He had a rebound after he completed the course of Paxlovid treatment. It's a very good treatment. It will prevent your disease from progressing. You're less likely to die, less likely to be admitted to the hospital after you take Paxlovid. And it is now freely available. 6 months ago, I was importing them myself because it wasn't available in Malaysia. But now it is freely available in government clinic, in all the CAC. So next time you or one of your friends or relatives are infected, and he's old people like me, or he's got diabetes and some other comorbidities, or he's obese, just go to the nearest CAC and insist that you get a Paxlovid prescription from them, okay? The next thing is, of course, baricitinib. So there are these two new drugs, remdesivir and baricitinib. If you have a friend or relative admitted in the hospitals, do insist that they get treated. Now, the reason I say that is because I've said on so many occasions, people are not offered treatment. I don't know why, but they are just not given the treatment. So you really have to be in the hospital and tell the doctors, look, I know there is a drug called remdesivir. I know there's a drug called baricitinib. Give it to me, please. If you are not going to give it to me, I'm going to bring it to me myself. So I stockpile baricitinib. Okay, it's just oral drugs, easy. So you can, in fact, you can actually stockpile this drug yourself. Perhaps something TAC can do again, import some, stockpile them, and then your members need it, you just give it away. Because it may be too costly for an individual person to try to stockpile for yourself, and you may or may not need it. But for us collectively as a society to do it, I think that's something you may want to consider. In case you are wondering, does this drugs and this antibody, do they still work against BA5? Remember, the virus keep mutating, the virus keep changing. And these drugs, the trials and all the research were done many months ago or even last year. And now we have a new virus called BA5. Do these drugs still work against them? In fact, for many antibodies, they no longer work. But it's very good for bevacizumab, for Evusheld, and for Paxlovid. The data tells us that they are still good. They are still maintaining their efficacy against Omicron BA5. Okay, so that's important to know. It still works. And so I think if you want to prevent yourself from dying after being infected from COVID-19, and especially if you're elderly, immunosuppressed, or like this gentleman here, he had a kidney transplant and he died of COVID-19, and he wasn't treated. Okay, you really need to demand to be treated. The reason I say that is because I have friends who go and then they never get the prescription of Paxlovid. And I have to tell him, you go back now and insist on it. I personally write a prescription. You know, so for some reason, we are still quite restricted in this country in terms of wanting to prescribe and treat people. And the drugs are not even expensive. You know, it's like the Abitaron story, the prostate cancer people know about. Yeah, the original might be very expensive, but generic one is the cheap. Okay? So you can actually import them yourself if you want. And if TAC is interested, I'll help you import some, and you guys can keep it up. So Paxlovid, remdesivir, baricitinib, they are good to have. You should be able to get it. If you can't, perhaps TAC should help. There's this wonderful drug, Evusheld, but it's quite costly. Again, you won't stock it yourself just because in case you need it. But again, collectively as a society, perhaps you want to consider. Then we import some and we keep it up. So something for TAC to consider. So come back to questions 3 and 4. How is your risk of hospitalization?
What is the cost like, Doctor? Sorry to interrupt.
Can we discuss that? I mean, money matters. Can we discuss that on another forum? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So your risk of dying is about 1%. Not about. Your risk of dying is at least 1%. 1 in 100. And if you're old, you're frail in nursing home, you got immunocompromised, your immunosuppressive drugs, it quickly escalates to as high as 35%. 1 in 3 people die. So don't mess around with it. It is a present danger to elderly people who are immunocompromised, especially you got low antibodies and And you can protect yourself because it's August 2022. We have made a lot of progress in the last 2 years. And there are a lot of new wonderful drugs and treatment out there now for COVID-19. Avail yourself to this treatment. Get treated. Don't die, please. Okay? Don't be like some of my friends who for some reason didn't know that these things were available. These wonderful new drugs are available. And then this is diagnosed. So I come back to the final question. The second booster works. Many of you, I hope, will consider going ahead like me and go and receive the second booster. So here are the data. Number one, vaccination. Okay, primary vaccination in Malaysia, almost all adults now. First booster, 80%. We have done very well. I must give credit to the government. They really pushed the vaccination program very hard, and we have achieved fantastic results. Okay, we get everybody in Malaysia vaccinated, not just primary, as well as the first booster. But when it comes to the second booster, it's another story. So this is the first dose, the second dose, this is the first booster, and then there you are. The uptake for the first booster is still very, second booster is still very poor. Okay, there we are seeing some uptick in the last couple of weeks because of BA5 surging. And I personally, I blame on two factors. Number one, I think misperception. People think that COVID-19 is just like another common cold, no big deal. It is not another common cold for elderly person who are immunocompromised. And number two, I think there's too much misinformation out there. I'm sure all of you have seen this, right? I received this at least, I think, in 6 different WhatsApp groups I'm in. I mean, that's just crazy to me. Why would people go around and saying that 4 Canadian doctors died after they received the 4th dose? I mean, that is just a stupid thing to do. Well, people go and check. I mean, eventually, of course, it came out that they didn't die of COVID-19 vaccine. They died of cancer. These were young doctors who had cancer, incurable cancer. They died in the hospital. And they will happen to die more or less the same time or a couple of weeks. And of course, they are immunocompromised. They have terminal cancer. They had a booster. So that I think this is really bad. That people going around spreading this kind of information. Do remember that when someone died as a result of COVID-19 vaccine, it's a very serious matter. It gets reported immediately. Okay, nobody mess around with death that can be causally linked to vaccine because it's important. It is very important because everybody gets vaccinated. It's not like cancer drugs. Only a few people get cancer drugs. A vaccine is administered to everybody, to billions of people. So safety is a huge concern. Even a 0.001% death rate is very high because billions of people get vaccinated. So safety monitoring is safety surveillance of vaccine is a huge thing. And the moment they see one death, it gets reported. Now, I just received this, I think, yesterday. South Africa reported the first death causally linked to J&J COVID vaccine. And this kind of news is out there. People like me receive this kind of news all the time. They, oh, okay, somebody died there. Somebody died there. And they get investigated very thoroughly. Okay, Novavax just got slammed with a new label for potential to cause myocarditis. You guys may not know that, but I know that. Because myocarditis traditionally associated only with mRNA vaccines like Pfizer and Moderna, but now Novavax, a subunit vaccine, also now gets slammed with that label that could potentially cause myocarditis as well. So we do watch over the safety of vaccine very closely. Even one death gets reported worldwide, but you guys don't receive that kind of information. I do, okay? And then we receive this kind of rubbish. 4 doctors died after the second dose of the booster. That's just crazy to me. And of course, that gets spread around like hell. I received this WhatsApp message 6 times, okay? 4 Canadian doctors died of booster. So now the data. This data came from Israel 6 months ago now because they started the second booster. The first country that started the second booster was in January 2022 was Israel. And what happened? There you are. The risk ratio for severe disease 4 and for infection 2 versus no second booster. So you're 4 times more likely to protect you from severe disease, 2 times more likely to protect you from infection. Unfortunately, right? So before you boost and after you boost, it goes up, right? But unfortunately, you can see 4 weeks later, it started coming down. It didn't last, okay? So there's no doubt booster works. Unfortunately, it doesn't last. Let me show you more recent data. So this is data from Israel again, this time from elderly people. And of course, once they roll out the program, obviously, they have more people being boosted, so we get better data. And there you are. First booster, all right, second booster versus first booster, all right? Not versus people who are not vaccinated anymore, because in Israel, almost everybody is vaccinated. And what's the difference? 64% protection against hospitalization, 78% protection against death. That's impressive results. Not many cancer drugs had that kind of efficacy. Yeah? And this is just a simple vaccine. And you achieve 78% protection against death. Versus first booster, not versus unvaccinated. Versus unvaccinated, I think this figure is probably in thousands of percent. Okay. So, about healthcare workers. Remember, people in hospitals, they are at high risk of getting COVID-19 because they work with people who have COVID. They take care of people who have COVID. And what happened? 3 doses versus 4 doses. So now, versus people who had first booster, not versus people who are unvaccinated. And what's the difference? 7% versus 20% protection against breakthrough infection. Do notice that breakthrough infection is very high. 20% of healthcare workers get infected 30 days later in this study, after they receive their booster, whether second booster or first booster. So you're looking at a very high risk environment of people getting infection, and the booster, the second booster, is protective. So that's the data we have so far on how well second booster works. Of course, there are short-term data. Second booster has only been around for 6 months or so. But if you go back to the first booster, okay, and we think the same effect will be observed, this is against Omicron, okay? Your effect goes down. So we're talking about effectiveness of the vaccine, it goes down. We boost you, boom, we bump up your protection, and then 3-4 months later, gone. Okay, this is 2 AZ after 1 mRNA, 2 Pfizer after, and then plus another Pfizer. Exactly the same thing. So that's the story, okay? The story is second booster works, but it's not durable. It doesn't last very long. It's probably going to last maximum 6 months, okay? Like I told you, any nasty effect get reported very quickly, okay, through official channels, because people have to go and investigate and establish the causal link between death and vaccine and and we routinely receive these reports every day. So far, as far as I'm concerned, it's good, okay? We are not seeing an uptick of more side effects, more nasty side effects from a second booster. Remember, millions of Israelis, as well as now American and Europeans, have received the second boosters. We don't observe anything unusual. So the next question then is when? You make a decision, yes, go ahead and boost. Basically, wait 6 months at least, okay, after your first booster or your third dose. But if you're high risk, you're elderly and immunocompromised, obese, you live in a country, you live in a healthcare setting, you work in a healthcare setting, or you work somewhere where there's very high transmission going on in your workplace or in your community, or your antibody level is low, then don't wait. Okay? Especially if your antibody is low, you shouldn't wait. You should just go out there and get yourself a second booster. Okay? We have data. I can share with you some of our own data. Say there's a wide variation, huge variation in the antibody level you achieve after a booster. In this case, after vaccination in Malaysia. This is our own local data here, okay? And we can now start looking at specific population. Kidney transplant is the ultimate immunosuppressed population, right? If you have a kidney transplant, you're taking all kinds of drugs to prevent rejection of the organ. So you are pretty suppressed immunologically, like this gentleman there. And he died. And you can see after 3 doses, so only 70% of patients respond. So we're now talking about not just the fact that you're boosted, we're talking about whether you respond to the booster. For kidney transplant patients, 3 out of 10 of them don't respond. So if you don't respond, we give you a third dose, and then we go on and give you a 4th dose. What happened? Among weak responder, antibody double. But among non-responders, 40% responded. So 60% remain unresponding. So it doesn't mean that if you had your primary vaccine, your first booster, you go on to get a second booster, you automatically will have respond. You don't. You still have to check. Because for poor responder, ultimately only 40% responded. 60%, in spite of 4 doses, remain non-responder. Same thing here. Only 39% seroconverted, of which only 22% had neutralizing antibody and 9% had T-cell response. So we're observing the same thing in kidney transplant. But of course, you will say kidney transplant are very immunosuppressed. So what about your analysis? You're not that suppressed anymore. You're not taking immunosuppressive drugs. Again, we observe 86% response rate. So 14% of people on dialysis don't respond to the vaccine. And these are some of the factors why you don't respond. Same thing, at 4 months, it's gone. So even if you respond, the response doesn't stay long, okay? 4 months later, it's gone. The number one, if you're old, you have no compromise, it belongs to some special immunosuppressed population. Number one, you don't respond so well to the vaccine. And even if you do, the response disappears very quickly. What about cancer? Same thing. We achieve better now, 70% response rate, especially for mRNA vaccine for cancer patients. And again, who are the poor responders? Older age, lymphopenia, blood cancer versus solid cancer. If you're on chemotherapy, you're currently on chemotherapy, especially steroids, especially B-cell depleting treatment like rituximab, CAR-T. And finally, interestingly, if you're on drugs like pembrolizumab, immune checkpoint inhibitors, they're good, okay? And other targeted therapy like abiraterone and stolamide, they're good. They don't much affect your response to the vaccine. Fine, this is my final slide. We'll be starting this trial soon. I hope sometime about 1 or 2 weeks from now. So this is the world's first inhaled vaccine trial. So if you don't like mRNA, you don't like Pfizer vaccine, do consider participating in this trial. We, instead of jabbing you, we make you inhale the vaccine, okay? And hopefully we hope to achieve local mucosal defense in your nose, in your mouth, in your throat, because we know this is the first port of call, right? You're gonna get COVID virus, the virus get to you through your mouth and through your nose, and we want to protect that. We think inhaled vaccine may have that special effect, okay? So think about this trial and let me know if you want some of the things that I talked about, or better still, I think contact PAC. If you want to be in a trial, call me or text me, okay? Happy to take any question, Guan Sing. Thank you very much.
All right, okay. All right, I think fantastic. I think it opened our eyes, isn't it? Okay. How do we transfer the nasal spray? I go to your office and get, is it?
Yeah, sure. In my office, I'll just call out to Joshua and just pick it up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay, arrange it, Joshua. Okay, that's fine. That's very good. All right. Very interesting. I tell you, for the record, we have 100% in Zoom, 100 fellas, and none of them left. Okay. All right. Oh, I'm
36 in Facebook.
Oh, 36, we got 136 cents. Very good. Okay, now is a good time. I think there are a lot of guys are very interested in this talk because we have a lot of comments on before this talk about, really, because these are guys who are hesitating to take the second one, and they are very important. So maybe I ask the first one. Hey, Zach, can you shoot up the first question from you? Sorry to give you, put you on the spot. Is Zach there?
Whoever want to talk, please unmute yourself.
Is Zach? Oh, Zach, maybe I've gone off.
No, I'm here.
Okay, go ahead, Zach. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, please.
First and foremost, thanks very much, Dr. Lim, for your talk. My first question is this. I understand the Ministry of Health in Singapore has come out with this advice that people above the age of 60 should not take the booster. Is this correct or not? Or is it,
Was it fake news? Yeah.
Yeah, fake news. Yeah, that is my first question.
I actually didn't double check. I received that news myself. I didn't double check on it because that's Singapore, right? So different country make different decisions.
Sure.
And you may not know, but Singapore has very low death rates. Singapore, in fact, has negative excessive death. Less people died of COVID than before COVID. So their health system is that good. Okay, I mean they publish the data on their migrant. We have 100% migrant infected, same as them. Many of the migrant workers were infected because they all live in very crowded, dormitories. They only hundreds of thousands of migrant workers. They only have one death. I don't know how many of our migrant workers die in hospital. So different countries have different circumstances, right? So obviously the risk profile they are facing in Singapore is much less. If you're 60 and above, you're healthy, very, very healthy. No immunosuppression, nothing. Well, especially if you go and check antibody level, you're good. You probably say, okay, I'll wait. And do remember, it's good to wait. Because the longer you wait, because you know that 4 to 6 months later, the effect is gone, right? So if you wait, then you get the effect later. If you follow my logic, yep.
Yes.
If you are good and healthy, you can afford to wait. But of course, you're still going to take all the other precautions, right? But if you're elderly and you're not good, your condition is not good, and you live in a country like Malaysia where we have very high infection rate, we have relatively high death rates, you probably don't want to take that chance. In fact, you shouldn't take that chance. I'm not taking that chance myself.
Yeah.
Simply because I'm social active.
Yeah. Okay, as a follow-up of that question, okay, that's important to differentiate what do you mean by healthy. So of course, we cancer patients, survivors, of course, we are considered as not very healthy. But for those guys, let's say they have diabetes, they have high blood pressure, they have high cholesterol, and so on, or obese, are they considered as unhealthy?
Among all those things you described, the worst possible thing to have is obesity. That's really bad. Yeah. Okay. So don't be obese. If you're slim like me and you're physically active and so you're probably okay. A healthy 60, yeah.
All right. Okay. All right. Another question, please. Or Zach, you said that first question was the second question.
I let another person ask the next question. Then I asked just give the others a chance to ask.
Oh yeah. Hey, anybody else? Please unmute yourself and shoot. Yeah. Shoot up and please.
Yeah, I'm Danny here.
Oh, Danny, go ahead.
Okay. Now, I saw just now somebody asked about Paxlovid rebound.
Yeah.
That means it's like President Biden.
Correct.
He took Paxlovid.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, a couple of days later, he was COVID negative.
Mm-hmm. Then he became positive again, yeah.
And then he got it again positive, but without any symptoms. That is important, huh? So what happened to him also happened to me because I also took this Paxlovid. About 2-3 days different from him. But when his test came up positive, mine also came up positive. The rebound after getting negative, huh? So the good news is this rebound thing only happened for 4 or 5 days. I'm now back to negative. So it's just a big rebound and all that, but you don't get any symptoms.
Yep.
What I did was I didn't want to go out to spread to other people. That's it.
That's right. Be a good boy, stay at home, yeah?
Yeah. So Paxlovid is actually very good. Because when I had this COVID and I took this Paxlovid, well, I recovered about 3 days, 4 days. It's a wonderful thing.
It works, no doubt about it. Yeah.
It is no longer fearsome. This this COVID thing is no longer fearsome. Even though I'm 72 years old, cancer survivor, diabetic.
Have you got your second jab, Danny?
Oh yes, I had it about maybe a month ago.
Okay.
But then you see, a lot of people say, how come you go and get your booster and then you still get it? But they forgot, when I had it, it was so mild.
Okay.
You know, when I had this COVID, it's like, I think something like flu for 2 days, coughing and running nose, and that's about it.
Yeah.
So I was immediately prompt action, took the Paxlovid, and you know, the thing recovered very, very fast within 4 or 5 days.
Yeah.
So for those Danny, there, who now we have the chance to see the word Paxlovid, I can attest to it. It is a wonderful medicine.
So Danny, your story is really illustrative, right? Because I've been saying repeatedly in the talk, the vaccine, including a second booster, no longer protect you from infection. Get that into your brain, all right, into your mind. Okay. Don't even think that just because you're boosted second time, you're not going to be infected. You will still be infected if you go out there and start mixing with people and and do whatever you do and live normally. What it does is that it stops you from dying. It prevents you from dying, which is more important for me than just getting infected, because everyone's going to get infected, regardless of booster or no booster. You need to get that into your mind, right? Okay. And then when you get infected, get yourself onto Paxlovid. If you get into hospital, get yourself treated with remdesivir and baricitinib. Stay alive, please. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's an important message. Yeah. Okay. Another question, please. Okay, Zach. Okay. Question, you go for your second one.
Okay. Dr. Lim.
Yes.
I am still very hesitant to take my booster, but I am trying to live a very healthy lifestyle, which means that, you know, when I reduce going out, especially crowded places, I only go out to office, and you know, I make sure that everyone mask up when I'm in the office, and I have absolutely not gone out dining because you know, because I know when you dine, you have to take off your mask. So if I'm going out, I 100% will be masking up, you know. So one of my doctors said she thinks that masking up is even better than taking vaccination. And I am practicing that because, like what you said, I am trying to lengthen the time when I need to take the booster, because the booster is only good for 3 to 4 months. So I'm not sure whether I'm doing this right or wrong, but I'm just trying to make sure that I am, you know, the chances of me getting COVID is significantly reduced because I'm masking, and you know, I don't have almost nobody visit me in the house. We don't have part-time maids or helpers or anything like that. You know, I live almost like a hermit because you know, there's so much of negative news about booster that I'm still thinking, is it right time to do it or not? You know, and you know, like I take this quarterly injection, this Lutrin injection. So I'm not sure whether I am also categorized as immune compromised or not, you know. So I have so many things going inside my mind, and I just can't decide, you know.
Yeah, you're doing a lot of good things, right, to protect yourself beside vaccine. So given all the precautions you're taking, I could even suggest a few more. The fact that you still go to your office and you have other workers in the office, co-workers in the office, you may want to consider, and I do that, all right, which is this is what's called a CO2 monitor. Install a CO2 monitor. It's very cheap. It's only about 100 ringgit in your office. if you have several people in the same room and each of us breathe in oxygen and breathe out carbon dioxide, and if the air is poorly ventilated, which means I'm potentially breathing in your air and your virus, and you are potentially breathing in my air and my virus, then this will show up on this mirror to do that.
Okay.
And then, so some of the simple things you can do in your office to protect yourself. Nasal sanitizer is a good idea. Everybody will come to the office. Everyone, make 2 spray into the nose before you come to the office. And it lasts about several hours anyway. So there are many things you can do. And of course, you're restricting your lifestyle. So that's good. And you can live with that. That's good. And you can probably get away without booster for a long while. Because like Danny said, there are now many other good treatments. There are many other ways to protect you besides booster vaccine. But I'm perhaps on the opposite spectrum. I go out, I go anywhere, everywhere now. So I love life. Okay. I'm sorry. I don't mean to say you don't love life. I'm sure you love life too. You love it in your own particular way. And I love it in my own way. And so we all, given our circumstances, we all make our own decision now. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay. Stephen here. There's one question from the Facebook by Bob Ngan. He said that since the second booster is so short-lived, so will there be a future of third booster or fourth boosters in the coming?
Should be.
I think if you look, for my reading on a trend, at least in the US, is that they are certainly thinking that everyone will get an annual boost, combining both flu and COVID-19, especially when they work out the pan-coronavirus. Like I told you, there's a pan-coronavirus vaccine now under development. We think that will happen. I mean, so that's because that's major. Whoever comes up with the first one that works is going to make tons of money. Pfizer made billion. Okay, I'm sure you guys know that. So there's a big race now in getting the first pan-coronavirus out, and that will become part of the annual thing that you get together with the flu. I think that will happen next year, 2023, in the US for this fall, because winter is coming in the US, they're already rolling out the Omicron variant targeted vaccine. So this is called bivalent vaccine, a combination of 2 vaccines in one, targeting 2 different strains of the virus. Yeah. So I think it will happen. Good for the pharma company, not so good for us. Yeah? But then on the other hand, yeah, there you are.
Okay. Any other question?
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay. Please identify yourself, please.
Yeah, my name is Sui Kim.
Okay.
Yeah, my question is, I already get my second booster. Before I get my second booster, I took 3 Sinovac, 3 vaccine, and then I went for my neutralizing test. So that the index shown was 62 point something. Then later I go ahead with my second booster. That was I took Pfizer. The second booster I took Pfizer. Then 1 month later I went and take my neutralizing test again.
Very good.
But the thing is shown that the index even lower. From 62 now become 40 something. But currently I'm having my chemo treatment.
Okay. So we need to know the result in relation to when you have your chemo and the kind of chemo that you have. Obviously, when you actively had a chemo or you recently had a dose of the chemo, that can suppress very intensely your immune system, which then recovers over the next few weeks. So of course, in this forum, I can't ask you too much detail about what kind of chemo you have. So I think you need to go back and consult your doctors, because timing of vaccine and the type of vaccine to use in relation to your chemo schedule is important. It's very important. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Next question.
For me,
who's that? Hello. Say your name, please. If there's
if not, let's look at the message. There's one from Ong Bi Moon. The question is, can I choose Sinovac vaccine instead of Pfizer for my second booster? I have Pfizer mRNA for my previous 3 doses.
So the question to that is a bit complicated. Officially, the government is trying to encourage everyone to get mRNA, and I understand there is quite a lot of hesitancy out there about mRNA. Okay, so if you must have, I mean, if you are willing to come forward to have a second booster, and you insist on having a Sinovac, personally, I see why not. Okay, so I mean, having something is better than not having it anyway. The best data, no doubt about it, the best data are all from mRNA vaccine, okay? Because they have been around, they have been widely used in countries like Israel and Europe, and they collect very good data there. Unlike in China, where they don't collect much data. Of course, Sinovac is widely used there, as well as in Malaysia, but we don't really have that much data to show us a second Sinovac booster works as well as mRNA or not. We don't have the data. So on purely on evidence, I can't tell you. Purely on evidence, you should really have mRNA. And finally, of course, for practical reason, if you're going to Europe, I'm sure you know that if you want to enter Germany, they want to see one dose of Pfizer, right? mRNA. But that happens to my son, you know, because they all had, like my wife, they all had Sinovac. They are big believer in Sinovac. And so when they want to go Europe, Europe said that you must have one dose. We need to see at least one dose of mRNA vaccine. So then they go and get mRNA anyway. So these are some of the practical considerations you may want to think about before you make a decision. But if you mati must have Sinovac, then go ahead. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Any other question?
Sasi here.
Sasi, go ahead.
I'd like to find out whether there's any correlation between the boosters with the PSA readings. Some of the members are saying the PSA readings are also increasing after the booster shot.
Yeah, PSA, of course, is a prostate-specific antigen. That means it's an indication for prostate cancer. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. The data we have so far, because the adverse effect of vaccine on men's health is, of course, important, right? You know, we are men, right? So, and the best data so far points towards the fact that your sperm count comes down. The vaccine will affect your sperm count. You're less likely to impregnate your wife, okay? While after the vaccinations, but they do recover eventually. As for the data on PSA, I don't think so. I have not seen any convincing data on PSA yet. But sperm count, no doubt about it, okay? You are less fertile after vaccination, but temporarily, okay? Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Don't think of producing children.
Yeah.
Okay. Any more? I tell you what, I give you an offer. Oh, wait a minute. To be fair to those people who attended, if you take a piece of paper, I'll go and collect the nasal spray. And how many are going to give to us, Dr. Lim?
You can tell me how many you want. I will then tell the manufacturer and say
150 attendees. So
sure.
Okay, all right. This is a deal.
Okay.
You guys take a piece of paper, write down 27 Jalan Bilis, Bangsa. Ikan Bilis, 27. And then I will put the nasal spray and my small skate. You just put up your hand and you can go and get it inside my, inside my compound, and it's okay. If not, you're not sure, you go and just ring the bell. Most of the time I'll be at home, and you can have it. 27 Jalan Bilis, and I'll go and collect from Dr. Lim the 150 nasal spray. Okay, all right, fantastic, and that will help you to protect yourself a little bit more lah. I'm so sorry for those outstation we can't send to you. Yeah, because our PCM is quite big, cover the whole of Malaysia. Okay, any more question?
Mr. Kwan.
Hey, yes, go ahead.
27 Jalan Bilis, is it Bangsa?
Yes, correct. Jalan Bilis, Bangsa.
When can I collect?
Give me about 3-4 days lah. Today is let's say start from next Thursday lah.
Okay, what time?
What time? Anytime. No, the box is just next to my small gate. I have a big gate and a small gate.
I see.
Then you can access, you put your hand in and then you can get the bottle.
Okay.
Just take one bottle. Huh? Yeah, okay. Yeah. Okay. Any more question?
Yes, I have a question.
Yes, please.
And my name is Beryl Nolan, and I would like to know the lifespan of these vaccines, because the doctor was saying to stockpile them, but how long can you stockpile them for?
The effect of the vaccine, whether primary first booster or second booster, now we estimate it's not likely to be more than 6 months.
Okay.
So that's the effect of preventing you from getting an infection. And you just heard from Danny, 1 month after his second booster, he still got infected anyway. But the protective effect in terms of preventing you from getting severe disease remains, right? Because you have memory. Remember, there are two components. There are two components to the immune system.
Yeah. No,
there's the neutralization, and then there's the memory part. Okay, the memory part kickstart and protect you from severe disease.
Yeah, no,
the stockpiling has nothing to do with vaccine. The stockpiling refers to drugs.
Yes, I know. I realize that. But hence the question: how long can you stockpile for?
The drug has shelf life, and most of this drug shelf life should be easily 1 or 2 years. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Most drugs have quite long shelf life. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Who's that? Okay. Any other question? If not, hello.
Eddie from Kuching.
Yes. Okay. Go ahead.
My question is.
Wait. I try to get it. Stephen, get rid of the Eddie something, because that one is his phone seems to be giving a lot of noise, background noise. Eddie something.
Eddie from Kuching.
Huh?
Kuching.
Kuching one, yeah. Oh, Eddie Chong. Hey, Eddie, is your phone making a lot of noise? But you want to ask a question? Eddie, go ahead.
I mute him already.
Unmute him. Now you let him in again. Wait, I unmute him. Wait.
We cannot unmute. He has to unmute himself.
Oh, hey Eddie, now you unmute yourself. Okay. Hey, your phone has a lot of background noise, but you want to ask something, right? Go ahead, Eddie.
No, hey, I put my phone a bit away. Can you hear now?
You can. A lot of background noise. Yeah, but anyway, go ahead.
And after my third shot, I experienced this ants biting my arm, and then the ants bite goes to my chest and go to my left hand. I asked him what kind of side effect is that?
All right. Okay. All right. So he looks as if that he has some sort of nerve problem, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. Is it? What is the problem?
So you're quite lucky, yeah. You're quite lucky. You probably have a form of neuritis. Okay, so that again is well known. You know, the vaccine is known to be associated with various forms of inflammatory and allergic kind of reactions, from heart myocarditis, right? I'm sure you heard of your heart, young people dying of heart disease, to nerve. That man who died in South Africa from the J&J vaccine died of a nerve disease, which we call Guillain-Barré syndrome. Okay. So you probably have a very mild one and then you recover. Most people with Guillain-Barré syndrome, of course, recovered, except for that South African guy, he died, unfortunately. So yes, there are side effects associated with the vaccine. No question about that. Almost all of it are very mild. Hardly anybody died of it. One death is like big time news the world over, okay? You probably have a form of neuritis, which you have recovered spontaneously. Good for you.
Yeah. Okay. Any more?
Yes, I think this is quite interesting by one. The question is, I am autoimmune patient and have been infected with COVID-19 in April 2022. Should I get the second booster? I have just recently taken my pneumococcal vaccine. Does it give me at least some form of protection from COVID virus?
The current recommendation is that since you had your infection in April and it's August now, and your autoimmune disease, go ahead and get your second booster anyway. Yep. Especially if you're on steroids and you're on MMF.
Yeah. Okay. I think if not, we have reached the target time, 4:30, and we'd like to say a big thank you to Dr. Lim. Always very interesting. You held the audience, full attendance, and you guys know what to do. as exactly you have to follow what he said, okay? And you'll be okay. Go for the fourth jab because, I mean, most of us here are cancer patients and we are not that healthy. So please, you know, I think the benefit outweighs the risk. So go for it. I have my jab about 3 months ago, my second, and I'm okay. And
sorry, can I interject to ask doctor? Where to buy the what CO2 meter? Sorry, I forgot to ask just now.
Pharmacies, right?
Pharmacies, Okay, thank you.
No, Lazada, you can buy from Lazada. It's very cheap. Okay, 100 ringgit.
Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, especially people work in the office, like any, indeed.
Yes. Thank you so much. Sorry to disturb. Yeah.
No problem. As usual, we enjoy a lot, and thanks a lot, and enjoy your golf. And I will arrange with JS, and I'll get the. Maybe most likely I go to the office, and all you have to do is just transfer the nasal spray to my car, and then after that, after next Thursday, you all can come to my house and grab it through to the door of the small gate. All right, back to my small gate. Just take one, please. Don't take too many. All right. Okay. Thank you very much again, and
thank you, everyone. Thank you for coming.